In 1985, Tipper Gore was out to make life difficult for musicians with her organization, the Parents Music Resource Center, or PMRC. The group was obsessed with restricting access to music they deemed inappropriate. The PMRC released a list of the worst offenders in their eyes, which they called the Filthy 15. At the top of that list was Prince's Darling Nikki. Perhaps it was this puritanical witch hunt that inspired Prince to release the lead single for the 1985 album Around the World in a Day, which features fairly tame lyrics by Prince standards. The song centers around a chance romantic encounter, and though there is a whole verse dedicated to having amazing sex, is perhaps as subtle as Prince ever got when talking about sex. The song was originally recorded in 1982. The piece underwent some big musical changes, thanks in part to the influences of Prince's backing band, The Revolution, when they re-recorded it in 1985. The song hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 initially, and recharted after Prince's passing in 2016 at number 33. That's right, this week on Cover Me, we're talking Raspberry Beret by Prince and The Revolution. That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that talks about famous songs and their many cover versions, compares them against one another to find out which one to play while we fuck in a barn. I'm your host as always, Jake Cressy, joined by the kind of co-host you find in a second-hand store.
Oh, Alex Millenberger.
Hey, you can find good things in a second-hand store.
That's true. You can get some really solid stuff. I mean, if you want the thing a second time, like, it's got to be good. So, I retract my previous statement.
You know, you're like, you find you in a rich person's second-hand store.
Yeah.
Like, I was out thrifting with a mask on because I'm socially responsible.
Of course.
I got a pair of pretty much brand new Converse for like $13.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. Alex, we're talking about Prince this week. First off, how are you?
How am I? I'm doing pretty good. A pretty solid week.
Good. Yeah.
Finally got my winter tires off my car.
I've never had winter tires in my life, but congratulations.
Now I don't have them either. On my car, I still have them.
Threw them out.
Toss them. Got rid of them. Don't eat them.
No, that's good. It's officially summer weather there.
It's officially summer, but it's also officially summer weather. We hit summer yesterday, as I understand, and I think you hit it around the same time.
Yeah, is it the 20th that is summer solstice?
It was this year.
Okay, right, 'cause sometimes it changes a bit.
Yeah, I don't know how that works exactly, but it seems to vary. Anyway, it's summer. It's also Father's Day today. I went to see my family.
Dads.
So there's dads everywhere for being fathers. We didn't shout out mothers, did we? We didn't record on Mother's Day.
Probably not. No, I don't think we did. Mother's Day was, well, it would be a Sunday, though, wouldn't it? Mother's Day was May.
It was a Sunday. Yeah, it was the 10th.
That was last month. It was the 10th.
May.
Wow, I have no idea. Doesn't matter, Alex. We're talking about Prince today because he is from Minneapolis, and Minneapolis recently announced their intention to disband their police department.
Which is pretty wild.
Yes, and I think an excellent move in the right direction. At least I think that's why we're talking about it. You suggested Prince, so maybe you tell me why we're talking about it.
I like Prince.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have much of a reason other than that. This song specifically, picked it because it was like a lot of Prince songs are very long, and this one's not. So it seemed a little bit more manageable for our format.
Right. Because otherwise we'd talk about like 2 versions. And one of them would be a 20-minute jazz version.
Yeah, no 20-minute jazz versions today.
Today. Specifically 20 minutes.
Yeah.
There is one that comes in at 1950, but we'll get to that. Alex, what's your relationship with Prince personally? Did you know him when he was alive?
Yeah, we were good friends.
Yeah.
And I won't say anything more than that. It's pretty personal.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, you know.
Yeah. But actually, no, I don't have much of a relationship there either. Honestly, I didn't even listen to him until fairly recently. Like, it was through just Spotify. just saying, hey, what haven't I listened to that exists? What's a Purple Rain? Let's check it out. I think I saw his Super Bowl performance first, and was curious about more of the music.
What year was that?
I don't remember.
Super Bowl.
I think I have it up here.
Somewhere.
It was 2007.
2007. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
It's a pretty exciting show because it's like raining and he sings Purple Rain. Like, it's crazy. It's quite a performance. He plays a lot of songs that are not his songs, and then he just like caps it all off with just like some Purple Rain, and it's pouring and it's crazy.
Yeah. This man was known, I suppose, for his like very just incredible live performances, regardless of like the venue or who he was performing with. There's that, I remember the podcast Unpopular Opinion would always talk about the time I think it was like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show, and he throws a guitar up into the air, and you never see it,
it just disappears.
Come back down. It fucking disappears.
So yeah, that's a video that kind of you see pop up, or I see pop up like on Reddit or whatever. Every couple months it comes up. Someone's like, "Look at this cool video of Prince playing guitar and they're like, "Yeah, I saw this like 3 months ago," but it pops up. It's a good performance.
Yeah, and he's just I know more of like the myth of Prince than I am really familiar with his catalog.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way too, in that I'm not super familiar with it, but I know like, oh, it's the guy who was formerly known as Prince for a while and changed his name to a symbol that's unpronounceable, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I know like the story, but then like even this one, you're like Raspberry Beret, and I was like, I knew immediately the song, and like I'd heard it before, but I'd never put two pieces together. I was like, oh yeah, it's Prince. But yeah, it's Prince.
Yeah.
It's a fucking banger song. Yeah, I keep meaning to get more into Prince, but it's like it's so dense. I know that if I really
there's a lot of it. Like, he was very prolific too. Supposedly he has like, or there's like a ton of material, unreleased material. Like, unreleased Prince projects is an entire Wikipedia page to itself. Like, he's got albums and music videos like that are just somewhere.
Yeah, and like you said, like even one song of his is like, you know, they're generally 6 minutes plus. Like, it's...
Yeah, I was actually surprised because he's got a lot of like good songs, and a lot of them have been covered pretty extensively, and a lot of them are like over 6 minutes, like of the good. So that's pretty impressive. I think,
really
for
is.
like someone who I would think of as more of a pop artist to have songs of that length.
Yeah, it sort of defies the expectation of, you know, again, we always talk about The Entertainer by Billy Joel.
Right.
Cut it down to 305.
Exactly, but he seemed to be able to pull that off. And he wrote a lot of songs for other people, too. So,
yeah, he was a prolific writer. I seem to remember reading somewhere he would write like 10 songs a day or something, and that was just like...
It's like what he did. I guess then you can pick the best ones.
Exactly, right? That's how you get good at something. That's how you get fucking Prince good at something, is you do it all fucking day. Every day.
And it worked out for him.
Yeah,
he got real good at
well. Sure did. Let's talk about some of that songwriting, Alex, specifically the lyrics of Raspberry Beret.
Raspberry Beret.
So we start out very cryptic. He says 1 2 1 2 3
Yeah, is that supposed to replace a 4? Is there something else going on here?
Has it uncertainty? It's what do we do with this? Do we do this every time? Is this a hack joke that we
Dude, do we just like keep bringing up? I hope that it's a running gag that people think is hilarious, but we don't get feedback, charming. So we don't know.
I haven't done a live performance since, I don't know, probably February. I did some improv, but, you know, I've done a lot of performances recently with no live feedback, and it is very trying.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't, but...
Well, you've been doing this.
I've been doing
like
this.
That.
Still no
doing
feedback.
This for over a year, like year and a half now.
That's true. Oh, we're coming up on 2 years.
Are we coming close there?
I mean,
I
it's
guess
summertime.
it is summertime. It's September was our official like production launch date.
Yeah, but we recorded a
But
couple
yeah,
in like May or June, I think.
it would have been May because I think that year I fucked
You
off
went
in
away
June.
in June, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
yeah,
we've been at this for a while now.
yeah. We know what we're fucking doing here, or at
Well,
least we've been doing it a while.
we've established a thing that we think we are doing, but without feedback, it's really hard to say.
Yeah, which is to say, hit us up at Twitter #CoverMePod or at our individual usernames at Jake the Cressy.
Yeah, I
at
might
some
see
Alex
it
Wise Guy.
eventually. I was on Twitter. I responded to John on Twitter. It's very exciting.
Impossible. I'll believe it when I see it, Alex.
Well, it's possible I fucked it up and you can't, but
oh, that would be fun.
wouldn't it
Let me
though?
see. I gotta check right now. But yeah, you can also hit us up at our email, covermepod at gmail.com. Send us your comments, questions, concerns. And yeah, now we've done it at the top. Be sure to rate and review us. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, the other ones, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Essentially, whatever you're listening to this through, we're on there and also on other things.
We're everywhere.
Okay, Alex said, I can't wait personally. Huh.
I mean,
I don't know.
it's out of context. I was responding to another tweet. Did I do it right?
Yes, he says also one day Alex is going to check
a
his Twitter and
reply.
see all these comments he's tagged in. What
Yeah.
a day that will be. No, yeah, I got the whole context.
Okay, I'm glad.
You did it right, Alex. You tweeted, or
Okay.
rather replied to a tweet.
Very excited.
Proud of you. Okay, so let's get into
talk
the
about
verse
some lyrics
proper.
now.
I was working part-time at a 5 and dime. My boss was Mr. McGee.
Yeah, is Mr. McGee a term?
Not to my
Because I
knowledge.
I googled it briefly. Anyway, so the story basically overall, just to do a quick rundown, is there's a guy who's Prince, and he has a not great, we assume, almost certainly not great, kind of minimum wage type job at a dollar store type establishment. We don't have 5 and dimes where we come from, but it sounds like it's basically a dollar store.
Yeah, you know, back when a dime was worth $1.
Exactly. And there's a woman who comes in, and she's very attractive and outgoing. We can perhaps infer from some of the lyrics. And then they go off to a farm on a motorcycle. Well, he says a bike. It doesn't have to be a motorcycle, but I'm assuming it is. Based on the animation in the music video, it's a motorcycle.
Right, and also where he puts her on the back of the bike, whereas I think if it was a bicycle,
you'd put him on the handlebars. Good
Right?
catch. All right. And then they have sex in a barn.
And it's the best sex.
And it's the best. It's electric. Anyway, so more specifically, working part-time in a 5 and dime, my boss was Mr. McGee. He told me several times that he didn't like my kind because I was a bit too leisurely. So some of the comments seem to suggest that this is implying a level of racism. I don't know if it has to be, because he seems to be a bit lazy on the job anyway. He says he's leisurely. He's kind of speaking in a way where he's kind of minimizing his own fault, perhaps. But maybe the boss just doesn't like that he slacks off at work. I don't know.
Yeah, it could also be a generational thing.
True. He might just not like young people.
The key, where we're pulling, I think, the racism from this is specifically that
he says my kind.
His kind.
True, which I would generally expect to mean to be a racist thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of other examples of like when it would refer to like age or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
but that does seem to be the pull, and it makes sense.
Because I think if you were talking about a generation, typically you say like that's the problem with your generation.
True, but it doesn't rhyme with
exactly. Whereas if you group people by their race, it's always like you people,
right,
or that kind.
Yeah, I can see that. But he also admits that he isn't maybe doing the best job.
Mm-hmm.
But
then I think with the following lines where he says, "Seems that I was busy doing something close to nothing, but different than the day before." like his boss seems to be a little fucking nitpicky as well.
Right, right. Like he's constantly trying to like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I don't like you because you're lazy, so I'm gonna treat you poorly, which will make you want to not work, which will make me think more poorly of you, which etc. etc.
Yeah.
kind of situation. Maybe.
But it
Maybe.
ultimately what this establishes is, and this is again, I feel like a universal experience, but I could be wrong. A shitty job, like the job sucks. This boss is on your ass. It doesn't seem to be very busy if a woman can walk in through the outdoor,
Right.
and it's just like it's setting up an average kind of like not excellent day.
Yeah, it's just like it's boring and there's not much going on, but something happens. And that
Yeah,
happens at the
that's
end of the first verse when he says, "That's when I saw her. Ooh, I saw her. She walked in through the outdoor. Outdoor. She wore a," and then we ellipsis, and then we go into the chorus later. But so you were talking about walking in through the outdoor, how that was kind of showing that it was not busy because there's not people walking out the door. I think also there's a bit of an implication that she's kind of like going against the grain, like she's a little different, maybe a little, I don't know, assertive, because she's kind of not following the rules casually.
If nothing else, at least eccentric, right?
Sure.
It's interestingly, people in the Genius comments seem to bring up this idea of her being a rebel or maybe even a feminist, and I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't necessarily think it's incorrect, but I think it's a bit of a reach.
That is really like reading into that line, I think, but also I do think it's supposed to imply that there's like she's maybe a little bit of a rebellious character, like just a little bit,
Yeah, but even as I've just said, we've set up a usual day. We've set up the mundane.
Yeah.
And then what is a more obvious signal of unusual than, in through the outdoor, using something for the opposite purpose?
Yeah, something the opposite of what you expect to happen suddenly happens. And boom, now everything's changed. It's not a normal day anymore.
Exactly. So if nothing else, regardless of the character of this woman, this moment is striking.
It's important. That's our inciting incident of the story. I don't know.
Yeah. And so we find out what she wore. Ellipses, hit the chorus. Raspberry beret, the kind you find in a secondhand store. Raspberry beret, and if it was warm, she wouldn't wear much more. Raspberry beret. I think I love her.
So, yes, this is like entirely visual. This is him just seeing her walk in and just like and falls in love immediately. I guess the other implication here about maybe her somewhat outgoing attitude, raspberry's a bit of it's a very bright color. Like it's kind of this bright fuchsia shade. It's not the color that I would actually associate with like legitimate raspberries.
Right.
But it's a bright color. So I feel like it's meant to be like the article of clothing is meant to be something that stands out. Obviously it does, because that's the first thing he notices.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, Alex. Is it supposed to represent a vagina?
Because it's like bright and red?
Yeah, and a little bit floppy. It's got lips on it.
Very possible. I also think the beret is associated with like French people. So there's some implications there, because often like there's connections made between like just being French and like romance.
Yeah, and there's also like there's ideas of some people think it's attached to like intellectualism, a raspberry beret.
Right, it's kind of like an artsy hat.
Yeah, an artsy hat.
The other thing, I don't know how much there was like culture there was around like secondhand shopping in the mid 80s, and if it would be similar to how we think of it now. But we generally associate like hipsters with vintage clothing. So there's kind of like that as well, if there's like that artistic flair. I also think it's almost the kind of a piece of clothing you would buy because it's very striking, and then not necessarily have the courage to wear it because it's very bright. So then you give it to the secondhand store, and then this person has the guts to pick it up and actually wear it.
Yeah, there is something even romantic in that idea of finding something at the secondhand store. It's another form of maybe destined meeting. So we have not only this woman with the raspberry beret walking in through the outdoor, but also her encounter with the beret.
Yeah, so like the beret has layers, is what we're saying. Like there's implications to the beret in the context of the story, which is more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And of course, the other line about her, if it was warm, she wouldn't wear much more. In the like short video, the short animation that it shows in the music video, she's wearing like a kind of like a not big, like a backless sundress kind of situation. So just like she's not afraid to kind of not wear a whole lot of clothing, which I think was a bigger deal in 1985 than it is now. Like we're more used to more revealing clothing. But
that may be where people are drawing this idea of her as a feminist is she seems to be very comfortable with her body,
right,
and comfortable dressing whatever way she feels, which is wearing maybe close to nothing if it's warm out.
Yeah, and I don't know what wave of feminism that is, but I could see that.
It's a new wave feminism, baby. It's the 80s.
Mid-80s. Bossa Nova. All right, second verse.
Bossa Nova. Yeah, he says, I think I love her. It's, love at first sight. It's a, like I kind of mentioned in the intro, this is a very, almost like sweet and innocent song in some ways. It's this love at first sight idea.
Absolutely.
But yeah, verse 2. Built like she was, she had the nerve to ask me if I planned to do her any harm. Alex, is she intensely frail or is she fucking yoked?
I could not determine which one it is, because like Prince is a small guy, right?
Yeah.
So is he saying like she's even smaller, or like is it almost a joke because he's so small and she's like not? Like I don't know. She could be yoked.
Yeah, it's like if she's just like super ripped, she's like, "You gonna try and harm me, brother?" And he's like, "No."
But also, that's
snap me like a twig.
The phrase, the idea of like doing harm in romance, is not one I have heard outside of music. The line I always remember, and it's not even really about this, is from like "Happiness is a Warm Gun." He says, "I know nobody can do me no harm." Of course, he's not necessarily talking about romance, but I feel like maybe it was a more common phrase at one point.
Okay,
but I don't hear it.
And so built like she was could also alternatively be that she was very physically attractive. So she's aware of her hotness, and she's saying, "You planning to bone down, son?"
Oh yeah, I guess she's used to propositions.
Right, so that's why she has the nerve. She's very forward because she is aware of who she is, what she looks like. She knows her shit.
Right.
She's self-confident.
Confident. Mm-hmm. There's details in this song.
Yeah. Prince is no slouch when it comes to writing. So look here. I put her on the back of my bike, and we went riding down by Old Man Johnson's farm. So a man on Song Facts seems to believe that this was a subtle reference to Old Man Johnson, your Johnson being a wiener, Alex.
Oh, Old Man Johnson's actually just his dick.
That's right.
His dick owns a farm.
Taking her down to the old dick farm.
Dick farm. Check your lease, pal.
And then it turns out to be not so subtle, because then they do just fucking bang it out.
Yeah, and he's like
at the farm.
He says, "I said now, overcast days never turned me on, but something about the clouds in her mixed. She wasn't too bright, but I could tell when she kissed me, she knew how to get her kicks." And then she wore again, leading into the chorus. Mm-hmm. So first of all, she's just saying like he's not that into rain, like. I know some people are. I've known people who are like, "Oh, it's raining. This is the best thing that could happen." Which is great. Rain's nice sometimes, but Is he saying he's just distancing himself from that side of culture?
Yeah, is it like is the idea here that she's opening him up to new experiences? So he's like, I never really liked this thing, but she really brings out, the joy of an overcast day, or it's like, the
That sounds
more
way better than what I said. I like that way more.
Okay, well, yeah, that's maybe my grasp on it, because my only other connection naturally to overcast days is that generally they're associated with more like negative, or at least more tentative feelings, more pensive emotions.
Right, so he's kind of saying like, "Hey, we're breaking this mold and it's weird, but it's cool."
Again, we're breaking the mold of what started out as a very normal day working at the Five and Dime, right?
And now suddenly things are changing rapidly.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't too bright, so like a weird line to include. I think she's not an intellectual, but she is clearly she has a, I don't know, like an emotional intelligence. She's aware of her body and her desires and knows how to get her kicks.
Yeah, so I mean, I almost because when I hear she wasn't too bright, it starts to sound like he's like taking advantage of her. But
Mm.
but then the next line kind of reverses that. At least if you take it completely at face value, which I choose to do here, that he can tell just from her kissing that like she knows what she's doing again. Like
Right.
she's familiar with, like she has experience, or at least she's confident here.
Right, because again, if we take the start of the verse where she has initiated the idea of sex, she's brought it to the table.
Right.
I guess maybe on the bike ride over, she said something stupid. She was like, "Oh, the Earth's flat" or whatever. He's like, "Okay, she's dumb,"
Like, all
but
right.
she is aware. She's still very much aware of what we're doing and is very much in control in that sense. Like she is actively making moves
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because she
She's
knows
an
how to get her
active part
kicks.
of this relationship.
Yeah. And then we get to the chorus again, Raspberry Beret. After that, we get to the fuck verse.
The fuck verse.
This verse fucking slaps.
Rain sounds so cool when it hits the barn roof, and the horses wonder who you are. I like that the horses are watching.
Yeah,
like,
and that
the
they're also
fuck?
like, who the fuck are these people?
So it's not his farm. It's not his dick's
No.
farm.
It's not his dick's farm.
A dick's farm.
Mhm.
And thunder drowns out what the lightning sees. You feel like a movie star. So the image here is the thunder's loud, so you can't hear
Mhm.
anything. You can only see because the lightning is flashing. And he's then relating it to like the idea of getting your picture taken.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah, that's just like a very sexually explicit without necessarily saying anything about it.
Yeah,
Like-
he's like telling this story with words, like suggesting that you're getting this like strobe light sex scene in a barn.
Mm-hmm. Which is so loud that like only thunder can drown out the noise.
So, yeah, another good line. Just good lines here, man.
Just fucking incredible. So he says, listen, they say the first time ain't the greatest, but I tell you, if I had a chance to do it all again, and I love this fucking line, I wouldn't change a stroke. That's so gross, but like also so good.
Cause baby, I'm the most, with a girl as
most.
fine as she was then. And then like the implication that like, again, that it's like collaborative. It's like I was only as good as I was because she was also good. Like,
They brought out the best in each other. And then there's also the implication with that last line that this was maybe just a one-time thing.
yes, that seems to be, or at least afterwards feels like it might be, but he would like it to happen again. But it's not a certain. It's not a certain.
No.
Thing.
And so, like, with this verse completed, we get a picture of this brief relationship that is purely based on sex, but yet somehow still sounds so beautiful. particularly with the way he describes it, with the thunder drowning out what the lightning sees.
Yeah, and like that's like the entire description of like the sex scene. It's just that because it's like there's
it really
horses
is that
staring, but
line.
also like feeling like a movie star. Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't take much.
No, it's yeah, and then we get one more chorus, and then the song's done. It's fucking tight. I like this one.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That is just impressive, And we talk about this all the time, but when you can just like be so succinct and terse, I guess. Terse might not be the best word.
Well, it's so like it's 3 acts really. Each verse is 1 act, and there's not too much like that really happens in any verse.
No, but like it tells the story, and like there's secondary implications and like layers to the lyrics. So yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially coming off of Breakfast at Tiffany's. What was that, 2 weeks ago
True.
now?
True. Yeah, didn't quite have the same impact.
Yeah. Let's talk about the the instrumentation, the music going on in this song, which opens up with I believe drums, right?
Yeah, it just opens with drums, and there's kind of like some effects on the drums because it's a pretty straight beat, but then it'll do like a like kind of sound like it's moving around. You just
right, yeah,
So I don't know if that's an echo or just something they didn't post or whatever, but
yeah, and then that highly compressed sounding like hand clap.
Yes, absolutely, just whatever that is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when
the music video would lead you to believe it's a bunch of people clapping their hands, but that might not necessarily be the case.
That's true. That is what happens in the video, but it happens a lot in the video too, and I think it's less compressed some of the other times.
Yeah.
But then he does his like count in thing, and then that counts the strings, and they kind of have their main riff.
Yeah.
That really like identifies the song. Like it's a very strong opening riff because it's very distinct right at the beginning.
Yeah, and they're so very like bright and sharp, and they have this kind of bounce to them. They're phenomenal. I'm trying to find here because I believe that's the contribution of one of the members of the Revolution, was specifically that string section.
String section?
Yeah.
Supposedly there's a Susie Katayama and a David Coleman on cello, and the violin is a Novi Novog. I don't really know if that's the pronunciation. But yeah, there's cello parts and there's violins. The violin seems to be doing the main kind of riff, but there's also cellos playing along a little bit lower.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit lower, obviously. I can't seem to find the note on it, but I do have something that says that the strings, and there's allegedly some like finger cymbals,
which
Middle Eastern finger
I would have called a
cymbals.
castanet personally, but I think they're similar. I don't know how they differ.
Yeah,
Similar
so
idea.
apparently that was a big part of what the Revolution brought to this in terms of rearranging this song.
Is castanets, or finger cymbals, I should say. They're probably not exactly the same.
Finger cymbals and strings, baby.
Right, because there was an original recording, and then they did it again. Did it say with like more world influences or something like that? I guess that's
that is what it said.
And I mean, this is
more
like
of an international sound.
This is like right after Graceland, so
right.
I don't know if that influenced it directly, but it was kind of the same time period.
Yeah.
Shout out to Graceland.
Shout out to Graceland.
Which
Great
is,
album.
Interestingly enough, Graceland, it was the location was Elvis's like home thing, and now it's open to the public as a museum. Prince had Paisley Park, which was his like recording studio performance place / home thing, which is also now open to the public as a museum. So, kind of interesting.
God, I hope they open up my apartment to
you gotta name it. You gotta name it.
Shit.
If your house doesn't have a name, are you even ridiculously wealthy? Like,
I'm certainly not.
Anyway. Where are we? We're just talking about the strings. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about those strings.
Yeah, so the strings play their little riff, and they kind of do like the big clap in between. And you can see them like coordinating it in the music video. Or pretending to, because it's a music video. Although I'm not going to say everything in a music video is just pretending, because that would be redundant. So I probably should just stop right there. I mean,
yeah.
And then he rides a motorcycle, but he's just pretending. He's not.
He's just pretending. It's not real.
It's a movie. It's fine. It's whatever. And then he starts to sing. Everything cuts down a bit. It's mostly drums. There's also some like synthesizer, I think.
Yeah.
In the background.
Playing in the back a little bit lower.
They're a little stringy, but not like the strings.
Yeah, it's very much a supporting, like a backbeat.
Yeah, they're pretty.
On this.
Pretty low down too.
In
the mix. Violin kind of starts to come in again near the end of the verse, and then everything jumps back in for that Raspberry Beret chorus.
Yeah, and that's kind of the cut loose moment. The strings come in, we get some backup vocals harmonizing with him.
Yeah, which
Everything
I think
gets a little bigger.
Is the guitar player there, his Wendy Melvolan, possibly Susanna Melvolan.
Okay.
Melvolan. Anyway, a band member. You can see again in the music video. She's playing the guitar beside him, and they're singing together.
You also see somebody on piano singing with him later in the video.
Yeah, I think that's Lisa Coleman.
Person?
Lisa Coleman was the keyboardist in the Revolution.
In the Revolution, which also great band name.
The Revolution? Yeah, it's so like it's so simple. I like I don't know, Prince like with bands. One threw me off because I always thought he was like solo thing, but like seeing it as like Prince and the Revolution, I don't know, it sounds good. And even later on when he had like the new power generation, like that's very 90s, but or I don't even know. I think that was in the 90s. I shouldn't call it very 90s because it anyway. I'm rambling,
but it fucking
but
slaps.
It's quite a name.
I think the point. Yeah, no, I think a very good naming work, particularly with the Prince and the Revolution, is even better than just the Revolution.
Yeah, and I don't fully understand why. I think part of it is because his name is Prince.
That's probably part of it.
Like, I also, looking him up, I was expecting to be like, born like Reginald. No. His name is Prince. Like, he was born.
He's born Prince? Fuck
He was born Prince Rogers Nelson. Like that was his name given at birth. And he just stuck with it. It sounds like a stage name, but it's not. It's just his name.
That's wild. That's even wilder that he then had to be the artist formerly known as Prince, because that's just his fucking name.
Yeah. So, unexpected. Good stuff.
Oh, man. Have you taken a look at his other names on
so
Wikipedia?
many of them?
Yeah, we got the artist, Joey Coco, the kid, Alexander Nevermind, the artist formerly known as Prince, which is abbreviated to TAFCAP. Jamie Starr, Tora, and Christopher Tracy, as well as it also has the symbol.
Yes, the love symbol, as it is known.
God damn.
I don't know. I don't know what he used all those names for, but I think he wrote songs for other people and would just use like random pseudonyms.
Oh, that's fun.
Like on those releases, and so I guess that's what he's called on them.
Yeah.
Because he wrote Manic Monday, you know.
Shit, really?
Yeah. Anyway.
What a guy.
Prince is easy to get off topic on.
To pull it back to this instrumentation, it's kind of very simple. Like we've kind of talked about the two key portions.
Yeah, it's got
the chorus.
Like a pretty distinctive like riff, and it kind of sticks with that on the strings. But I mean, there's definitely layers to it. Like I said, there's that synthesizer underneath, and particularly if you watch the music video, like there's a lot of instrument playing, but it's hard to identify them individually in the track. So I think there's just a lot of like layers there, like kind of texture, but they still really rely on the riff.
The one change I think is the third verse, at least I believe so.
Yeah, the third verse is different.
Yeah, is different. You get the string kind of whispering in at the end of some lines. That
Yeah, the strings get a different riff on there, which gets used a lot in the cover versions.
Yeah, it
Some of the
does.
cover versions. I didn't note the bass very much.
I don't think I have a single note on the bass because I didn't really pick up on it.
It's pretty low. It's not the most important thing on here. I think it changes a bit in that third verse, but like there's not much else to say.
Yeah, it really is just to add a little texture out there, so it's pretty easy to miss on it because it just blends in with everything else.
Yeah. I've always liked, for reasons I don't fully understand, the backup vocals in the chorus. They're very like high. The way they like the attack on them, the way they come in, like I don't know.
Well, yeah, because that is
The
a
way
fucking
it's sung.
hook.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you are right to key on that very specifically. Those backup vocals hit in a very memorable way.
Yeah, and again, I'm pretty sure it's Wendy Melvoin singing that.
Yeah, does Wikipedia have the personnel on it?
Only because she's the guitar player there, I think.
Yeah, in the music video, it's very clearly attributed to her.
Yeah, it seems to be. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with that for now. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about the instrumentation. It's a fade out on this one, but I don't really mind that.
Yeah, it's almost like the way the story's told. It's kind of like dreamy, you know? So it almost makes sense.
Yeah. I can imagine Prince telling you this story and then just kind of drifting off.
Yeah,
as he
it's
thinks
like
about that incredible sex.
it's like a slow like a what's it called when like the black edges in a movie, the edges like blackness just comes into the middle. Is there a name for that? Circle wipe.
Yeah, a circle wipe.
That's a PowerPoint transition.
Hell yeah,
but
baby.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the music video, Alex?
Yeah, and I think maybe some of this is supported by the music video because the music video kind of has this like what was it described as, like neo psychedelia look to it.
Yeah.
Like he's got this like very Prince-esque suit on that's like a full body suit with like a cravat and it's like a sky blue suit with cloud pattern and everything's
Now before we go any further, I do have a
Oh,
quote
sure.
on this. So the way they produced this psychedelic music video is actually quite entertaining. So Simon Fields, who was one of the top music video producers of the time, said in the book I Want My MTV, quote, "We filmed a whole video. Then Prince got a Japanese animator to do a completely different video, and we mashed the two up. He would
that's
mess
fun.
with directors. He would give them the impression that they'd be in charge of the video. Then halfway through, he'd go, 'Thank you,' take what he like, and edit it himself."
Yeah, no, I believe all that. That sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds very Prince, but just the idea to be like, we're going to get two music videos. Nobody's going to know that on either music video is going to know that I'm putting two music videos together from these videos. It's just sneaky.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
The music video also has an extended intro section. I don't know if we listened to like a single version. It was an album version. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where Prince like walks up and like takes his guitar from a woman who's crouching in front of him.
And wearing a raspberry beret.
Wearing a raspberry beret. Everyone's dressed up in like very, I guess, Prince-esque kind of flamboyant clothing.
Yeah.
Also, the guitar he has is like, he had like several guitars that were kind of shaped like that.
Right.
With, I don't know. I recently saw an article. It happened about a month ago. There was a blue version called the Blue Angel Cloud guitar. So these might just be Angel Cloud guitars. I don't know.
Okay.
And it sold for something like $500,000 at an auction Anyway,
Yeah, that's nuts.
so that's the blue version of this guitar
Mhm.
that he's playing in this music video.
So another thing that happens after he picks up that guitar and before he starts singing is he does this sort of like retching cough.
Right, the cough.
And people were apparently like trying to derive meaning from that because Prince is apparently pretty notorious for planting hidden messages in his songs. Like he had a sequence in "Darling Nikki" that I believe he played backwards, and there was like a hidden message. And so when this cough happened, people were like, "What the fuck is that? What could it mean?" And so he told Rolling Stone in an interview, he says, "I just did it to be sick, to do something no one else would do."
Sick. Sounds like he just misinterpreted the meaning of the word sick.
Yeah.
Like,
people are
oh,
that's
look at
fucking
me.
sick."
It's a pun. Aha. Maybe it's a pun.
He's like, yeah, maybe. The kids want
Just
something
wanted to
sick.
be sick. Hilarious. There's also a brief shot of the drummer.
Yeah, where he like
He's like
barrels
dead
the
fake,
camera.
like deadpan looking at the camera, and then suddenly just like smiles and lifts his hand up. And then it just like freeze frames on that and splits it into like 20 shots, 16 shots.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we get sort of basically it's some of it's just a very straight up, like it's Prince playing on top of like almost a table or just a circular stage with the guitarist from his band, and there's these people dancing in sort of a variety of Prince-esque outfits, almost somewhere between Prince and like Matador outfits was kind of the general vibe.
Yeah, basically.
And then
or really
what they
big
do-
like button-ups. Like
Yeah.
oversized button-ups.
What they do is essentially green screen the animated music video, so like anything that's blue essentially is see through, and then you just see the music video through it.
Yeah,
The,
it's like
the
it's like
animations.
it's like weather reports where they accidentally wear green and they disappear in front of the screen. Like it has that look to it because that's literally what they're doing. They're just replacing the blue. So it's fun with the animated thing. So you don't actually see a lot of the animated one because it's kind of in the background when it does show up. But it's there, and it's definitely makes it different, you know?
Yeah, and then it does later cut to it directly and show him like driving to the barn and stuff.
Right, and you get to
But
see
yeah.
the dress that I was talking about.
But yeah, it is very interesting to see a whole animated music video essentially just used as texture.
Yeah, it's and like especially nowadays where we absolutely recognize like bad green screen. Like it just looks like bad green screen, but they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Like, yeah, particularly in one of the early shots, you get that sort of like where you can see that the green screen isn't smooth. There's artifacts of the real world on this drawn world, and you're like, oh yeah, that's bad. Like, but it's intentional.
Yeah, and or like, you know, like it shows up on his outfit because his outfit's the same shade of blue as the background. So
Yeah,
Prince just like disappears. He's a floating head and cravat, just like singing this song.
yeah. There's like some hand drawn trees or whatever the fuck, like poking out through him.
And they just drive their motorcycle right to a barn.
Yeah, that's the music video. It's very cool. It's pretty fun to watch.
There's also a brief section where Wendy Melvolin's the reflection on her décolletage, it becomes, I guess, the right shade of blue, so the video starts playing there too. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's very chaotic.
Yeah. It just kind of shows up wherever.
Now, with that, unless you got anything else to say, we're gonna start getting into covers.
That's pretty much it.
All right. Let's get...
I guess the one other thing I would say is that I'm kind of curious to see the full animated video because you don't get to see much of it. It's in the background. And it seems to be like kind of smoothly animated, you know? I guess it was Japanese, you said, right? So
yeah, Japanese animator. Let's see, do I have the name for that? Created by Colossal Pictures co-founder Drew Takahashi.
Drew.
Yeah.
Extended version. Okay. I wonder if that's...
But yeah, it would be nice to get, because it is some very smooth animation. He seems to do things where, like, one image will then melt and blend into the next part of the story, right?
Yeah, you can see like she'll turn around, and her hair will become a cloud, and then she'll turn into a cloud kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I imagine there's a
I
lot
always
of.
find that
I
stuff
see a
cool.
heart with wings and like flowers. I imagine there's a lot of like that kind of imagery. It seems like fun to watch.
Yeah.
Even if it's
Well,
not superimposed on top of prints.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about these covers, though, Alex.
Talk about
'cause we
these
are
covers.
just about an hour in.
Yeah. Oh, are we? Oof. All right, let's go.
Hindu Love Gods, 1990. This is an interesting one, formed in Athens, Georgia. This is essentially just like a side project for a lot of the members of REM. Sometimes Warren Zevon and Brian Cook are there.
Yeah. And so this was supposedly recorded during, it was a Warren Zevon album recording that they were all working on, and they recorded some tracks not intended to be released on the album. So several years later, they got compiled and released as Hindu Love Gods, the album.
Okay.
And this one actually did okay. Like, this one sold reasonably and became a single. So,
and I think
performed
this
it on
one
David Letterman.
Yeah, I think this cover directly influences a later cover we'll talk about.
For sure.
But it's very like 1990. It's very professional garage rock sound on this to me.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of like tries to get that more like rock and roll grit thing, kind of less produced sound than the original. Focus everything back on the guitars. What they do is they take the riff from the third verse and they basically just the fuck jam, and they just play that through the whole thing. Like, that's the guitar riff, or most of it.
Yeah, so it'll be essentially the intro is down, 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 down. So 3 big long sustains followed by that like string arpeggio.
Yes, that gets played during that verse. So that's kind of that's like what they do. And then of course, distorted guitars makes it's more like rock and roll sounding, guitar rock kind of thing.
Yeah. And Warren Zevon reading the lyrics, essentially.
Is that an actual story, or is that just the way he sings?
I saw that as a quote somewhere. It might have been on their Spotify description or something. But yeah, it was about they didn't describe him as singing it. They said it was. Here we go. Yeah, it's in their Spotify bio.
Reading.
Yeah, it says over the course of a single drunken after-hours studio session, with Zevon assuming vocal duties for a series of loose-knit electric blues covers, capped off by a reading of Prince's Raspberry Beret.
Reading. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I wouldn't be too surprised. It's possible. I still think he does a decent job. It's not amazing, but I like Warren Zevon. Yeah, I think he's got a good sounding voice.
Zevon reading, like it sounds like Warren Zevon.
He's got a few lines.
She kissed me.
Yeah, where he'll kind of do that, kind of more spoken word, kind of exaggerated thing, storytelling kind of deal. But that's pretty much this version. Like, it's more of like a straightforward rock and roll adaptation, than anything else.
It's very even, despite trying to conjure this electric blues sensation. It's very there's not a real high-low difference between the verse and chorus.
That's true. There's not a whole lot of change, and I guess it makes sense. Like, they were just kind of messing around, and it ended up getting released. So it's a pretty straightforward thing, but I don't think they put a ton of thought into it.
Yeah, and like the instruments sound good. They have a good tone and stuff. Like, it sounds like a professionally made rock version of this.
Yeah, but there's like not much else.
Yeah, and somehow, despite that, it's 30 seconds longer than the original.
Yeah, I think they just like, there's a few parts where they just like play. They don't really solo. Like, there's parts where it seems like there should be a solo, but they just kind of play the riff a few times, and that ends up making it a bit longer because they just kind of like don't jump into the next verse, which might just be
Right.
because like they were drunk and he forgot to. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe they were just like, okay, somebody will do it. Like, we'll play the riff, and then one of us is gonna solo, and then they all just did the riff, and they're like, well, fuck. Let's
Okay.
get back to it then.
Yeah, so that's how that one went.
Yeah, another fade out on this one. So it's a very interesting thing just because of the people involved in it.
True. It's Warren Zevon, which I would not associate with Prince in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it was. I almost wonder. It sounds like he respects the art, but it almost seems like it was. It seems out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is an oddity, but worth listening to at least once, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of something I listened to at least once, we're gonna talk about Maggie Kim in 2003.
Maggie Kim.
She wore a raspberry beret, the kind you find in a secondhand store. Raspberry beret, and if it was warm, she wouldn't wear much.
So Maggie Kim, I think he's still around. There's like 10 years between releases on Spotify, but it sounds like they are the same person. I looked her
Right.
up a little bit. She has some other songs. She's around. She's like a producer and a bass player and a whatever. Does some
Yeah,
songwriting herself.
Her
Singer,
Facebook
obviously.
page calls her a singer, songwriter, bassist, producer, and one of the most recognized Asian American independent music artists today.
Yeah, there was like a fair amount of material like about her. So
Mhm.
it seems to have that. There were some like interviews and stuff, music videos. So on YouTube.
Yeah. So this one opens
but
up
this
with
is
like
back
a
from like
sorta...
2003. This is an older one.
Is this? Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that, 2003.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
It opens with
I even
some like synthesizer doing this like do 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 do.
Yeah, and it kind of bounces between the left and right sides of the space.
Yeah,
Your
sure.
ears.
Yeah, speakers. I don't know.
Yeah,
And then
the left and right speakers. That would be how you say that.
that's what we call those. And then the other thing it does at the beginning is it takes that kind of like echo drum beat from the original. There's a few samples from the original in
Yeah.
this, so it does the like choo 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 like that drum beat that you hear in the
Yeah.
original. Plays that a couple times, and then has a sample of Prince counting in,
Yeah.
and that's
Seems
when
like a weird thing to sample, but like
the
I
count in.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just a little bit of Prince, be like, hey, this is what song it is, because it hasn't really
Yeah.
identified itself yet.
Yeah,
Because
fair enough.
her like beat she's doing is just some drums,
Mhm.
which I guess the original has, but it's still, I wouldn't say totally recognizable. And
Right.
then you get the Prince count in, and you kind of know what you're in for.
Yeah, dog.
I don't know.
And so we get to the we finish that intro. We get to the first verse. Again, we get something closer to spoken word on this. It's very
Yeah, it's
like
very like
half-sung.
low energy, and it seems like if I had more context on 2003, I could give it a better description.
right.
of, like,
Place
what
it
it
in the cultural
Yeah.
context of the time.
But I think
yeah.
it fits somewhere in there.
Somewhere.
They're
in
also
there.
very compressed, the vocals.
Yeah. And then we get guitar, which is very focused on like, being short and sharp. It cuts off pretty quick every time
Yeah.
it starts up.
So as soon as it plays the count in, and like instead of the strings coming in right there, it just plays like a like it's that like very brief guitar sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, staccato. That's the word. It's very staccato. Fuck, that was bugging me for like a day. I couldn't think of it.
And then there's a few other kind of like it also plays like parts of the riff on that guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sections, small sections.
Small sections, but yeah, in the staccato kind of style where you just almost get a taste of it without really hearing the full thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have that sustain where it rings out that you get so much.
Mm-hmm. And there is a bass in here. It's pretty low, pretty soft.
Yeah, it's I think a little more forward than in the original, because the original
Yeah,
had
for sure.
more stuff going on, so the bass kind of got buried.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not super forward, but it's noticeable.
Yeah, it is noticeable.
There's some other stuff where like she'll do like a vocal doubling effect on outdoor, like on the repeat. A few
Right.
things like that. And of course, because it's got to build throughout the verse for the second part, it gets more drums.
Yeah, even those drums though still pretty sparse.
Yes, it stays pretty sparse for that first verse, absolutely. But when it jumps into the chorus, it gets a lot less sparse.
Mm-hmm. This is
Kinda-
your typical like cut loose. The guitar starts actually ringing out instead of cutting everything.
Yeah, there's
short.
more sustain there, and then the drums get a lot more cymbal or tambourine.
Yeah, there is something in
There's a lot more
that
going on.
higher metally end.
Yeah, and then the vocals are stay doubled here.
Yeah.
The other thing, no, that's not about the chorus. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, at the end of that chorus, if we're gonna move forward, they do like a do no 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 no, so almost like a build that just leads to the second verse.
Yes, and then it like has a kind of a quick cutout, and then you get these like two bass notes where it goes like, ba-bow,
Mhm.
and then it goes into another chorus, verse.
Yeah, and then so yeah, on this verse we get like a sort of gentler. I think it's a guitar. It could be a synth. That
I
kind of.
think it is a guitar. I think it is a guitar.
Yeah.
I agree. Playing like higher notes. It's kind of echoey. Playing like bam, bam, bam,
Yeah.
up in that higher range.
And that's going to stick around for essentially the rest of the song. It comes in on the next chorus, so that's a bit of adding in layers as we progress.
There's also right at the end, she says a line. She knew to get kicks. She says it so fast.
Is that for me? It just sounded like she said she liked a kiss.
She liked to kiss. I think she's just saying it really fast. Like she waits a bit too long. She says, "I could tell when she kissed me. She knew to get kicks." Like
Let me give it a listen.
1:32 is the timestamp on that one. 1:32.
Okay, yeah, I could hear it being jammed in there, but
She knew to get a kick.
she needed to get a kiss.
I don't know. I thought it was
But
funny.
yeah,
She
it,
says
I,
it so
I had to
fast.
listen to it like 20 times. I was like, what the fuck is she saying there? And I still didn't get it.
And then we do another chorus, and pretty much it's got that high guitar. Like that's pretty much the difference.
That's the only difference. And then I have written here, she's whispering about fucking, so obviously that means the third verse.
It is the third verse. You get
And
that
you get
kind of
that-
intro thing, like it's a little different from the intro, but similar synthesizer thing. That's playing
Okay,
rapidly.
yeah. I thought that might have been that high guitar doing like a muted plucking.
It could be. These could all be the same thing.
Yeah, that very well could be the
Yeah,
same thing.
that would make some sense because less instruments, right?
Mm-hmm. And then along with that sort of bubbling rhythm at the bottom, we get some kind of electric guitar sustains in the back.
Yeah, that guitar, and then sorry, I'm lost in my notes.
It's okay.
Yeah, it just layers those instruments on more and more, and you get like I think there's a few different electric guitars getting added throughout.
Yeah,
Like
I
there's
believe it.
some distortion on one, and one sounds a little more overdriven to me. Like there's
Right.
there's some layers. And then the next chorus has some more backup vocals, I think,
That's right.
which are like, I don't even know what she says. It's like, "Can you find?" Like it's just the lyrics.
Yeah,
sung
they're
slowly.
repeating some lines from the chorus.
Slower.
Yeah. And then once we come to the end, we're taken right back essentially to the intro with that little like ringing synth.
Yeah, it like does a couple choruses and then it ends suddenly. This version.
Yeah.
And that's
That's
that
that's this one. What did you think about this one overall?
one. This one I thought was like fine, but it feels a little more No, that doesn't make sense to say. What did I think of this one? It didn't like grab me too much. It seemed like there was effort put into it, like someone was doing some work here.
Yeah.
But it's
A lot of effort
almost,
made into like little changes, whether it's just like making something staccato or adding in a synth, like
yeah.
or
I don't
something.
I don't know if it just felt like a little dated, because it does feel kind of. I mean, it's made in 2003. It doesn't sound like someone made it this year, you know. It's obviously kind of on the lo-fi end, which is fine. It was fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's I think it stood out in the playlist because it came right after Hindu Love Gods, which was a very straight
Yes, they
cover.
definitely does a lot more to change it. There's different sound. The vocals are very different. And I mean, there's quite a gap, just a time gap between those two. So it's kind of the more modern sound
Yeah.
of it, even if they both kind of sound dated.
Yeah, in their own special ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Beyond that, not really a standout for me. Let's talk about another one that's not a standout. Dave Damiani in 2013.
Damiani.
She wore a raspberry beret, the kind you find in a second-hand store. Raspberry beret.
I'm saying that? Damiani?
I don't know. Damiani.
Damiani.
Damiani. Nah. You gotta change all of your vowel sounds to because that's the easiest vowel sound to make, supposedly.
He's an American singer-songwriter and producer based out of L.A.
Yeah, he's like
His
an
whole-
LA jazz band leader type guy.
Yeah, his whole fucking website was just like, I've played with these famous people, and I've played for these famous people. And I'm like,
a lot of name dropping.
a lot of name dropping.
So great. Cool. Way to go,
Which
man.
I think already set me off on a bad track with this one. And just for everybody who needs to know, this is a 6-minute and 17-second jazz version.
It is. Compared to some of the extended like lounge room jazz versions of things we've talked about, I didn't find this one terribly offensive.
Well, it's instrumentally dense, so there's always something going on, right?
Yeah, he does manage to do some change ups, like particularly some of the like vocal melodies. They'll do, make it change the timing on and stuff like that.
Yeah, pulls it into that sort of jazz slowness.
Yeah, and he's got a big band backing him up, so there's some horns for that.
Yeah, there's like
interest.
3 different horn sections.
Which I think is, I mean, a big band is, I believe, saxophones and then trumpets. No, saxophones and trombones and trumpets and anyway, I'm blanking now, but I'm pretty sure it's like 15 or 20 piece band.
Okay, because at the top we get the drums.
Or that's what a big band is.
And then we get it's like it's either 2 different horns or just 2 sections of horns do almost like a call and response. One does like a bwah, and the response is like a bwah, bwah.
Yeah, you get those lower horns and the higher horns, and then saxophones come in, start doing their own little riff. So there's a lot of like added stuff for this version. There's a lot of like switching up, like I said, that's not till the chorus. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Now, we can move through this at a less than leisurely pace. There was 6 minutes of it to get through.
Fair enough. Yeah, and then he does that kind of like swung slow like rhythm with the lyrics.
Yeah, even it's somehow very pronounced on the title line, Raz Beret.
Yeah. He's switching it up. With that sort of raspberry beret. It's like that got that space. So it's raspberry beret, and then kind of like speeds it up at the end. And that makes it sound more like jazzy, I guess. Like that's
jazz, baby.
That's we say that a lot. It's all jazz. Everything is jazz.
It's all jazz to me. Yeah, it's
There's a going through this quickly.
yeah.
There's like a bridge. They add a little bridge. You get some time there. Then they go back to the verse sections, very similar, but there's more horns. They're still pretty soft, but there's a lot more. They introduced an electric piano at that point.
Yeah.
Also, instead of a bike, it's a van. So he's putting a
Ooh, I
woman
missed that.
in the back of his van.
That's not good. That's a bad.
That's a
lyric
red flag.
change.
Don't love that lyrical change.
Don't love that.
Another change, he says, instead of, I could tell when she kissed me, she knew how to get her kicks. She says, I could tell when she kissed me, she knew how to give a kiss. Which is, I don't know, a little, it's the same meaning, but now you've rhymed, like, you said kiss twice, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There seem to be even more horns in the next chorus.
Yeah, that's the
major
impressive part of this
overarching
song.
theme is more horns. They add just more and more horns as they go. There's so many horns.
So many.
Also, for some reason, doesn't say barn. Just removes the word barn from the third verse. So it sounds
That's
so cool
right.
when it hits the roof. Doesn't mention the barn. I don't know why. For time, like, I guess it's getting a little
Yeah.
bit long. They wanted to cut that out.
We gotta cut out this one word.
And at this part they kind of get this like going back and forth thing with the horns,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to break it down a bit for the third verse because it's the different verse, right?
That's right.
You kind of going like a boom, bang, boom, bang, and that's different horn types. And then you get to the second half, you got to do a lot of build. Pretty standard stuff, you know? Especially when this one has a lot, like, wider dynamics. They go much higher and much lower throughout the song. There's bigger swings.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's swing music. Dun-dun.
What?
Nah, just kidding. I honestly don't know. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I couldn't tell you swing music from non-swing music. So.
And then there's an electric piano solo.
That's right.
For a while. I liked the bass in this, I believe.
Yeah, it's a stand-up bass. It's got a good tone to it.
During that solo. But yeah, it's a jazz solo. It's a jazz electric piano solo. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, does it go? So, like, what happened is I hit the 4-minute mark on this, listened to maybe 10 seconds of the piano solo, and then my brain just, like, tuned right the fuck out. Because apparently that's when I leave jazz songs, is when
About
the
4
solos
minutes.
start.
Yeah, I thought this one, overall, I actually thought it was a pretty decent, like, jazzy arrangement compared to some I've just really not liked. And this one, it's not like there were, like, 4 solos or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were somewhat restrained in that, and they did a lot of, like, changing it up to make it feel jazzy. Nothing groundbreaking. You know,
No.
it's pretty straightforward, standard, like, jazz arrangement of a pop song. But compared to some that can get so just, like, masturbatory, I thought this one was pretty decent.
Yeah, this is definitely on the better side of a bad jazz. I'm not sure I'm still on board with it. I think maybe they went a little heavy on the horns.
There were a lot of horns. The horns intensify throughout. So if you like horns, you'll get them from this.
Yeah, you're gonna get
For
a fucking ton of
sure.
them.
There
But, like,
are
you're right.
horns.
It wasn't necessarily a boring version. It wasn't masturbatory, I would agree. But I still find it lacking for its length, and the amount of things it does in that time is still just a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, it really spaces everything out and makes it feel a little slower. And like I said, nothing like really stand out
Mm-hmm.
in it. I didn't think so. Decent,
Yeah.
not amazing.
Decent, not amazing. Speaking of words we can use to describe anything, this is a segue into Caballero Reynaldo
Caballero
in 2015.
It was a raspberry beret.
is a pseudonym for an artist named Luis Miguel Gonzalez Martinez, and he is Spanish. This is from an album of covers. Oh, this is 2015, by the way. The last one was 2013.
2013. Yeah.
So we are in a different decade now. This is an album with a lot of covers on it, including a cover of "Oh You Pretty Things," which starts exactly the same
Really?
as this song. It has it's this toy xylophone sound doing like a do like build up. So they both do the exact same thing. I don't know what to make of it.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. This guy does a lot of covers, particularly like he does a lot of full albums, except for the White Album, which his 2019 release is called One Third of the White Album by the Beatles, obviously. He also does a lot of Frank Zappa, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
Including like full Spanish language covers.
Pretty wild. Also, I wanted to mention Caballero apparently translates to something like gentleman or knight or sir.
Yeah,
'cause
so the
when I looked him
dictionary
up-
definition from Google says a Spanish or Mexican gentleman, or in the U.S., apparently in the southwestern U.S., it means a horseman.
A horse
Like
man.
a horseman, I suppose, not a horseman, not like not a centaur, but a dude who rides horses.
Right. And when I went to the Spanish Wikipedia page for him, it translated the title to Reynaldo Knight instead of Caballero Reynaldo. So,
Okay, that's kind of cool.
so it didn't know it was a name. Yeah, this one, after that kind of strange xylophone intro, there's some drums, and then like this kind of very wah guitar playing the string riff. And like
Yeah.
wow, 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 like it's got that wah sound to it.
Yeah, and then you've got like a sort of bouncing rhythm guitar in the back, just like a dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun,
it's
dun.
really like it sounds like it's accentuating those like upward strums, up strums.
Yeah.
And also there's a drum machine. Later
Yeah.
on, I believe a kit joins in as well, but there's like
yeah,
a
I
pretty
believe as
fast
soon
drum
as we
machine.
hit the verse, we get the kid in there.
So and then when he starts to sing, it's like a pretty heavily accented.
Yeah, it's a thick Spanish accent
And
on this.
I'm not sure if it's strange because the way he enunciates things makes it almost seem like there wasn't a lot of understanding of what all the words meant.
Yeah.
But he didn't seem to learn it phonetically either, because he says raspberry beret, like he pronounces the T, which to me would imply that he read the word.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, heavily
He
accented.
clearly covers a lot of English music, so you think he would understand.
I guess he must. Obviously, yeah, he's gotta, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's English. It's like the French language.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lingua franca.
Exactly.
Sort of. But anyway, so that, yeah, this one's kind of just got like those strange vocals and like that guitar. That's kind of the distinguishing part about this. Also,
Yeah.
it's kind of like spoken word throughout as
Yeah,
well.
very spoken word until you get to the chorus where things are saying a little more.
Right, he does start to sing for that. And then there's also that drum machine, like it's a kit during the verses and then a drum machine during the chorus,
And
or
during the chorus,
both, I think,
yeah.
during the chorus. And it
Yeah,
doubles
possibly.
the vocals and
Mm-hmm.
Stuff
Interestingly,
like
this is the shortest version, 251. They cut out the third verse,
yeah, there's no third verse at all.
so we never know what happens in that barn.
Don't know what happens in the barn. We don't even know there's a
But he-
barn. We just know
That's
he's going to Old
exactly.
Man's Johnson's farm. Johnson's farm.
Johnson's farm, and he says she kissed at the end of that. Instead of saying she knew how to get her kicks, he just repeats she kisses me a few times. He might even just say she kissed me.
She kissed me on the back of my. Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's kind of odd, but it's like you said, it's bouncy and it's
Mm-hmm.
cut. It's like short, so it's kind of like it's got like a good energy to it.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Definitely. Just like the way he does everything, like the way he speaks is a little
He's almost
unusual.
like
So it's
a
very like I don't know, it's very ear catching.
like a Spanish Johnny Cash almost.
Yeah,
That
kind
very
of.
deep
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah, his voice
Yeah.
is very deep. So I found this one entertaining, definitely.
Yeah, I found it like oddly charming, but yeah,
Yeah. Unusual.
unusual. And after, listening to a 6.5 minute version, it's nice to have something that knows when to end.
Yeah. A nice cool down.
Yeah. Speaking of things, Freedom Curl
Freedom
in the
Curl.
year 2016.
Boy, raspberry beret. The kind you find in a secondhand store. Raspberry beret. If it was one sheet.
So
That's his legal name.
Freedom Curl.
Yes.
Cool. Curl.
Just a fun fact, Curl.
Curl.
It's pretty fucking Curl, isn't it?
So as I understand,
yeah.
this guy produces all his music on an iPad.
Yeah, that's what his Spotify thing says. If he gets, intensely wealthy, they're going to open up his home studio as a museum because he calls it Cabaret Curl
Cabaret, and it's Cabaret with a K.
with a K.
He's doing the like Donkey Kong Country naming scheme.
That's right, baby.
So cool with a
Yeah,
K.
cool.
With a K.
Okay, let's see his picture there. Is he a Kremling? Does he look like a lizard person? Oh, yeah, there he is. Yeah, he's an alligator.
Yeah, he's an alligator man. Who knew? Not me. So yes, they're all self-produced on an iPad, I guess. This particular album is called Sign of the Eye Times, which is kind of a reference to that, I guess. Or it sounds like it.
Yeah, I guess. Sign of the Eye Times. It also, yeah, if not for the fact that he is like actively advertising that he does his producing on an iPad, I would expect this to have been made in 2007. This
Yeah.
would be the
Throwing
original
eye
working
in front of
title
things.
of We Will Rock You would be Sign of the Eye Times.
Of like, we gotta update We Will Rock You. Let's put lowercase eyes in front of everything.
Yeah.
Well, what will we call it?
What we call it? God damn, I still can't believe we paid real, actual currency to see that.
Quite a bit of it too.
Quite a bit. It wasn't cheap.
No, it wasn't. Anyway, so this one comes in with like some pretty heavy kick drums. You get that like, and like,
Yeah.
I like the kicks here. They're pretty weighty.
Yeah, it gives like a lo-fi, almost like John Cougar Mellencamp vibe is what I got from this one.
Lo-fi Johnny Cougar. Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
get that. I get that. And then it does the drums for a bit. There's some like
There's a little piano
strumming.
like
very briefly.
ditty.
There's like a
Yeah.
do, and like that's it.
That's it until the end of the song where
Yeah.
it plays that bit again.
I literally wrote like, where did the piano go? And then early note, and then be like, oh shit, there it is.
There it is.
Like very, very end of the song, the piano comes back. So he kind of has his like raspy, like, was working part time at a 5 and dime.
Yeah, this is supposed to be like the Americana version, you know?
Yeah, and the way I did that almost sounded like I was trying to imitate John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing the connections more now.
Yeah, see, it's starting to make a little sense. So we get like an acoustic guitar doing some rhythm.
Yeah, doing like the little bit of picking and then strum a few chords kind of thing.
Yeah. And then perhaps the most interesting thing is this synth that comes in.
Yeah, once you hit the chorus, the synth starts to play this like doo 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 doo, like a
Yeah.
riff. Also, there's like a shaker. There's like some kind of maracas or some kind of shaker.
Yeah,
Just wanted to
a
mention
little
that.
more of that organic percussion.
Yeah, but that synth, which I don't think is based on anything specifically. I couldn't get anything
Yeah.
out of the riff. It was unexpected. It's different from the rest of the
Yeah.
sounds in this song.
Yeah, it does sound a little out of place, but I think the idea of it is in the right spot. I think the sound needs to be adjusted on it.
Yeah, perhaps. Perhaps. It was strange because it doesn't sound like a song that would have, like you were saying, it sounds like this like working class thing. And then there's this like very electronic sounding synthesizer, which kind of breaks that.
Yeah, like I wonder if
illusion.
you'd brought the piano back instead, maybe something a little more organic.
I was kind of expecting the piano to come back earlier, but it's almost kind of a joke.
You would think so.
But anyway, the other thing he says, when it was warm, she wouldn't wear more, which seems to imply that she is just completely naked, except for
Except
a
for a
beret
hat.
in this like dollar store, which
Yeah.
is definitely well, I guess I think if you're protesting something, you can do it.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I don't know. I mean, this is Minneapolis we're talking about, so who knows?
Who knows? Also, interestingly enough, no mention of her build in the start of the second verse. So he just opens by like, "This woman had the nerve to ask me if I was gonna hurt her."
I actually didn't notice some of his lyrical changes.
I think that's the only one I have on record. But again, I feel like without that line, it changes the context of that interaction pretty severely.
Yeah, he does like cut out a few lines, make them a little more like spoken wordy, so they don't have to fit with the rhythm. To various levels of success, I guess. Apparently, that one's definitely
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah, he goes for like a full-on poetry reading of the third verse.
Yeah, I also think he doesn't say I think I love her. He just says I love her, which
Right?
doesn't change it that much. I think it makes it sound a little less like innocent
Yeah.
on his part. It doesn't really change it that much, but kind of lose a bit of that.
And so yeah, as we come into the final chorus, this already fairly sparse song breaks down to just like that shaker percussion, maracas, whatever they might be, and him reading the chorus.
And you feel like a movie star. Yeah, it sounds very like Red. Like we were talking about storytelling last time. It doesn't quite have the same gravitas as that
Yeah.
version of London Calling that we talked about by the Beatlesons. But it's kind of a similar idea of like he's suddenly telling this story.
Yeah, it very much reads like people who like do actual poetry readings. It's much more in that vein than a storyteller vein.
I can hear that.
And I've never been crazy about poetry readings, except maybe like Patti Smith, but
Yeah, you just haven't been to the good ones in New York.
yeah, exactly. That's the ticket.
The other slightly odd thing is there's like some strings that come in here.
Oh yeah, that's right.
As he's doing his poetry reading storytelling thing, they just like get this like bum 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 like playing their own little riff,
Yeah.
which seems like more. This one's kind of all over the place in terms of like production, because it does a lot of, I would say, unexpected things. First with the synthesizer, then with the strings and the piano. Like I said, the piano almost seems like a joke, like he's telling a joke to himself.
Yeah, like maybe somebody was originally going to
share.
come play piano for him, and then they didn't. And all he got was
He's
that
like,
little
whatever.
riff from him. But yeah, you're right. There is a lot of odd production choices that, yeah, they made, like, I understand the idea behind them, a bit of layering, and I think that's a good instinct, but I think he went for really odd instrumental choices.
Yeah, kind of like trying to switch it up, trying to do things a little bit different, trying to do something unexpected. And I think that that's not a bad thing to want to do. But I don't know if, like, none of them, well, I noticed them, so that's good.
Yeah, and like I think he has a pretty solid base here as this, like working man's like Americana version of the song, and then
Lo-fi
just
John
doesn't-
Cougar Mellencamp. I like.
Yeah, lo-fi, exactly.
I like that descriptor.
And then he messes that up by
Oh.
hitting these other elements rather than building on what I think is already a strong foundation.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm trying to think of an appropriate way to respond to this, because it's not that I disagree with you. It's that I haven't put enough thought into this to agree with you specifically. So I'm like, yeah,
Right.
okay, that makes sense. Like, it could be true. I don't want to invalidate what you said.
Sure, if
But I'm
you
not sure
come
what
up
to
with a
say.
rebuttal, either later this episode or just,
And-
before I edit this together, just send it my way.
we'll just splice that in. Like, no,
Just stitch
fuck
it right
you.
in.
This is the best. All of it works. Yeah, my overall for this one was like kind of neat lo-fi thing going on. Pretty sparse for a lot of it, and definitely some like unexpected changes that occur throughout the
Mhm.
song. There's also after that third verse, like it goes into like a shaker only section, and then that kind
Yeah.
of like at some point turns into a chorus. Again, somewhat
Yeah.
unexpectedly, because it's not really something we'd heard.
And then it goes from like shaker and chorus to no shaker and just him saying the title line, and then we get the little piano
And then
bit,
it just
and
does
then
like a
we're
bleep,
out.
boop, boop, and that's like it.
That's it. And then we're at Frankenstein 3000 in 2018, baby.
Yeah, they're like a rock band.
Yeah,
I
punk
couldn't
band
find out
from
much info
Asbury
about them.
Park,
Oh, right, they're from New Jersey.
New Jersey.
They're from Jersey.
And their most popular song is a cover of the theme song for that 70s show, which they did in 2010.
Which I don't even know the theme song to that 70s show off the top of my head.
We're all right. We're all right. Hello, Wisconsin. That's
Hey.
the end of it. Yeah. Punk band from Asbury Park. This version to me seems to be based off the Hindu Love Gods version.
Very similar to the Hindu Love Gods version. They speed it up and they like double up the drums. The drums are going crazy.
Yeah, they're going wild, and again, we're doing that verse 3 riff, the do-no-no-no-no-no-no-no-no-no-no.
Yeah, it totally lifts that one. And it's like a little more distorted, a little more modern sounding because it was recorded
Yeah.
in recent
Speaking of those
times.
drums, we get some cowbell in the mix on there.
There's some cowbell in this one.
Yeah.
What else got? Things of note. They do some like falsetto backup vocals in the chorus.
Yeah. It's very, again, talk singing, but in like a hard kind of punk style.
Yeah, it's a little more of that. These guys seem kind of middle-aged based on their picture.
Yeah, they're pretty old. They've been around a few years.
Yeah.
It's my understanding.
Anyway, yeah, and they kind of like raspberry beret. You can kind of tell it's higher backup.
Yeah.
There's a small guitar part after chorus, like about 2 minutes in.
Yeah.
Where it,
Yeah, you're right. About 2:05.
yeah, it starts like they're playing a riff, and then everything cuts out, and the drums or then the guitar just kind of like strums really fast. Ding 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 ding. That sounded like a banjo, but it was not a banjo. It was an electric guitar. Just like for a bit, and then everything just kind of like comes back in.
Yeah, that
Like
was
it
an odd moment.
Pauses
It's
very fast.
Jarring.
Yes. Also a very sudden thing. And then that's when they do the third verse, because that's kind of the ending for the Hindu Love Gods version. Or it would have been, like where it ends. But they kind of cut out and then actually do the third verse.
Right. Wait, does Hindu Love Gods not have the third verse?
I'm gonna say no. Did we forget to mention that?
I think we might have.
Huh. I'm like
3
90%.
minutes 54 seconds. And they don't mention the third verse.
Yeah, they don't do the third verse. They have those like weird extended guitar sections that like are
Right.
too long, probably. Like it almost seems like a placeholder, like put solo here, but they just like didn't think it was gonna be released or something and like didn't.
Right. I think it's a misstep to not include the third verse in this song, but
It's kind of a big part of the song.
yeah.
Anyway, these guys do that third verse. And there's not much to note about that one. About the
Yeah,
third
and then they
verse.
include a kind of like guitar solo. The guitar like rips out loud for a bit,
Yeah,
and
they
then like a short bit, then it goes to some muted plucking, and then it rips out loud again, and then it goes back.
Yeah, and it kind of like I know they bring up that like fast strumming thing again at some point.
Mm-hmm.
and then they do like a clapping chorus.
Yeah. It does. There is a bit of a live band vibe to this one.
Yeah, I guess that's
Which-
kind of what they would be doing. What they would do.
Yeah, it is likely what they'd be doing, right? So I can see this being a good one to get the crowd going.
Yeah, especially like it's a very fast version.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's also long because like it's not short. It's fast, but it's not short because they actually like return the third verse
Yeah.
on the Hindu Love Gods.
So yeah, you end up
version.
with a version that is basically the same length as the Hindu Love Gods version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was better than Hindu Love Gods version.
A little more thought out. They kind of I really feel like the Hindu Love Gods version was kind of like an off the cuff thing that got released. Like that's the vibe I get off of it, and based on the story, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of like a punched up version of that makes more sense as its own thing.
Yeah, I agree. With that, let's move into our final cover. Rachelle Garnier.
Yeah.
Garniez.
She wore a raspberry beret, the kind you find in a secondhand store. Raspberry beret, and if it was washed.
I think it's Garnier because I saw a video with her in it. Let's see if I can find it.
Okay.
And they like say her name. I've lost it. I don't know where it is. There is a music video for this one.
This, yeah, I have seen the music video.
Um,
So she's a songwriter, singer, composer, producer, multi-instrumentalist from New York. She moved to Europe and learned folk music, and now she's obsessed with live music. That's her thing.
cool. That's cool. I don't blame her. Seems
So we
like-
got
Seems like a cool
accordion,
thing to do.
we got violin on this.
We do. We do have those
Those are the big
things.
players.
Folky. She's really got that like folk indie thing going on.
Yeah,
know,
we got
even, like, the
percussion
way
in
she
the form
sings.
of like glass and like organic percussion, as it
Yeah,
were.
and like a snare. Like mostly a snare and maybe a kick.
Yeah, and like
it's
you were saying, her vocals are very indie.
kind of got that
sounding.
like airy, soft sounds. Told me several
Yeah.
times there was nothing. Words.
Yeah, buddy, that's the one.
That's the words.
Sorry. Very even version. This one.
Another one that doesn't build a whole lot. She's got like
yeah.
kind of like single violin on that strings riff.
Yeah.
And she kind of does her own backup vocals.
Yeah, we get a kit drum in the chorus, but even then, it's very sparse.
And yeah, it's a longer version. I'm like struggling to think of like specific things about it. The vocals are a bit like odd sounding.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you were saying, folk music. Kind of got like a bluegrass feel to it with that violin and accordion. It's like fiddling.
Yeah.
I did like the third verse though. It continues like a violin riff going on there. She actually does say barn. I don't know why I wrote that because there was a version that didn't say barn, I guess. And then there's male backup vocals that come in for this part, and they start to like harmonize. So, and this is the fucking part. So
Yeah.
the other thing they did that I kind of like is the way the drums play. It starts to focus on the cymbals, which kind of to me imitates the sound of like rain on the roof.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was a pretty good move, a kind of effective thing to do.
Yeah.
And
So
they're
yeah,
kind
that-
of like whispering. It's this like kind of intimate sort of.
Yeah, there's that intimate tenderness
feeling.
that then
Yeah.
explodes at the end. Explode might be a bit of a hyperbole, but it builds into the violin solo that comes after it. So the drums start hitting a little louder. She gets a bit louder at the end, and then we get just a violin hootenanny.
Yeah, little violin. So it plays a chorus basically because
Yeah.
they do that and then they sing some more choruses. So
Mm-hmm. And then and we get a lot of instrumental near the end where it just does that third verse riff, that and we get these sort of like echoey vocals in the back, almost choir like.
yeah, there's also a bit where softens up and goes back to the what the violin was doing in the third verse that was kind of like low. And then you get these like like kind of like choral type vocals.
Yeah.
I'm not totally decided on the outro. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it.
I think it's trying to maybe encapsulate that dreamy vibe that you mentioned in the original. So we were kind of okay with the fade out there, right? And she tries to
I guess it's
maybe
kind of
make it more explicit through instrumentation.
that's kind of the feeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it all works for the most
Yeah,
part.
I think I liked the stuff near the end there. I thought it was a good attempt at making a different take on it.
In, I think, an effective way for the most part. And now that we've talked about the outro, I like it more.
Yeah. Let's talk about this music video, Alex.
Yeah, I didn't watch it super closely, I'll admit.
So it's like papercraft essentially. She writes out her name and the song title. And then we cut to it's like a like wrapping paper basically. It's got avocados all over it. And then they just do shit that, fits in with the lyrics. So she says, I'm working at the Five and Dime. She checks out this paper drawing of or like a paper image. It's like a printed image of a dime and also a nickel. And then that like stock photo of a boss smoking a cigar.
Yeah, the like boss man meme. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't like your kind. It's got a little... And then he says it
speech bubble
in
there.
Spanish, in French.
Yeah. Well, in
No,
French,
that
it just
says I don't speak
French. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so there's little fun jokes in there. They make this image of an outdoor. They open it up. There's a cat wearing a beret behind it. And then when it says if it was warm, she wouldn't wear much more. They take the clothes off the cat. And then there's just a little thing that says censored. So you can't see the cat's junk. But obviously there's no junk to see. It's a picture
It's
of
a
a
cat.
It's
We
pretty
normally
tame.
see cats naked.
Exactly. Then they check a woman's head on there. Then they put together this picture of a cat because of her build. So they build a cat, and then that line about harming me. They put another picture of that cat where it looks sad. Then they ride a bike. There's Barbie on a bicycle. How does that rank to a cat? Clouds. That's what that word is. Then we get the overcast days. So there's clouds with her. I sometimes I just hit the letters in the wrong order. So I was looking at the word Claudus, and I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm saying. It's clouds.
Claudus.
And so yeah, then we break to a cat with a hat. Now we're on a background of bananas. They write out the word beret using raspberries.
Using raspberries? Yes, they do.
Yeah, and then you have later they put a bowl of raspberries down plus a teddy bear plus the letter A, raspberry bear A. Then there's this picture for the fuck verse. There's a picture of Prince and this woman. I believe it's from the Purple Rain movie.
Yeah, it must be.
And then she puts her face over it, and also the cat over the other one.
Yeah, so
now
there's a cat in this. It's a little Yeah.
Is she gonna
She's
fuck
gonna
the
fuck
cat,
the
Alex?
I mean, that seems to be what she's implying.
That seems to be the implication, right? Like, I don't know how else to read that.
Song's about fucking. They replace
Yeah.
the subject with a cat.
Yeah, now it's about fucking a cat. So then we get toast with raspberry jam on it. Presumably, it might just be any jam they have lying around. And it spells beret. Then they bite one of the pieces of toast and put it back. And then the instrumental section is a picture of, I assume, Rachelle, and they slowly take these bits of paper and
The jar of jam does say raspberries on it.
Oh, okay,
Fresh
there you go.
raspberries. Trader
So then
Joe's.
we slowly transform her from being herself into a picture of Prince, and then that's the end.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun.
That's kind of fun.
There's
Neat
like
little watch.
some puns in there.
Yeah. With that, we're gonna get into our final verdicts. We got 3 categories today: the worst version, the best version, and the version you would play when you're having sex in a barn. Alex, what's the worst version of this and why?
What is the worst version of this? Let's see. Which one did I like the least? You know, I think it was Maggie Kim, and I didn't really hate it, but maybe it was just a little dated for me. I don't know. I didn't like it that much.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Definitely not a standout version.
Yeah.
Hers.
I know. I almost hate to give it worse because I didn't dislike it that much, but I'm like looking at the other versions, and I don't think there was any that I liked less.
Right.
You know?
That's fair. Yeah, for me, it's Dave Damiani. It's jazz is tough for me. It's tough.
That's fair. I understand.
And I just with this one, it didn't hit. It wasn't awful. Like again, wasn't bad, but it didn't hit whatever sweet spot I believe jazz needs to hit.
Sometimes, yeah, definitely not always in the mood for this kind of thing.
Yeah, also that changing to a van instead of a bike, bad move.
Not a good move.
We got some bad lyrical moves from a few people on here. Freedom Kerl removing the build. Anybody who removed the third verse. But I don't know. Changing it to a van is explicitly a bad idea, I think.
Yeah, I like struggle to understand what the thought process was there. Like, you know how
Yeah.
he's supposed to be cool and personal because it's a motorcycle? Maybe it's just supposed to be like self-effacing kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't come across in
Oh.
this version for sure.
No, it certainly doesn't.
Ah,
But yeah, that is my worst version. Again, a reliance on horns too much. Alex, what's your best version of this?
my best version of this. Let's see. It is not Hindu Love Gods. It is not Frankenstein 3000. I wouldn't give best to either one of those. But I enjoyed the Caballero Reynaldo version. I did. Like I said, it was kind of like snappy. Even though they did cut out that verse, I feel like it almost didn't matter because I was not necessarily listening to his voice for like the words.
Right, but more so just the tone of it.
Yeah, because it was just kind of interesting. I think it was that one ultimately. I think I got to give it to that one.
Yeah, that is a good choice. Yeah, like you're right. You can't give it to Hindu Love Gods. That version's almost just a testament to how good professional musicians are.
Yeah. That like they were able to make it something decent, but it was really just like them fucking around.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you guys want to hear this? Sure, whatever.
That's
And
pretty
look, we
fun.
love this.
Oh shit.
It's off the cuff stuff. It's not Freedom Curl because I think he made just a lot of missteps.
Yeah.
Even though I think
though it was
he
interesting.
set out in a good direction. Frankenstein 3000. It's fun, but it is I don't know. It's not gripping. I was also taken by the Caballero Reynaldo version. It's like I thought the guitar noise on that wah guitar was very good. I liked the sort of like laid back but still kind of bouncy rhythm to it.
Yeah, it kind of had that
Um,
like almost like skank thing going on where it's like a little bit probably more like rock steady or something like that, but
Yeah. And his voice I found like almost hypnotic. I wanted to listen to it even though he was just, talking.
yeah.
And yeah, he removes that third verse, which is a mark against it for sure. But I think him also like emphasizing the fact that she kissed him, like repeating that line adds a sort of romantic trope in there where you're reliving that one moment in your head and again. So I think he edits this song in an okay way. If there's still that idea of romance, we just don't get that beautiful, passionate barn sex.
Yeah, which probably hard to pull off legitimately if you're not Prince, which most of us aren't.
Most
So,
of us aren't. Yeah, so I'm gonna give it to him as well. Alex, which version are you fucking in a barn to?
it's got to be Rachelle Garniez.
Yeah.
I feel like her third verse did a pretty good job of like taking it easy and like having the right atmosphere. In particular.
Yeah, I agree. I think also if you're like looking for music that won't upset old man Johnson, something with a little accordion, a little violin, he might think it's its own music. And so it's also
Oh,
stealthy.
I was just listening to that myself. This is just some good old folksy fiddle music.
The horses are listening to the folksy music. It's good for the
That's the
soul.
music I left for them to listen to.
Meanwhile, you're just blasting one out
Yes, everywhere. The horses
everywhere.
are whinnying. They don't know what's. They
They're-
don't know who
they're
you are.
upset.
They don't know what's happening. They're upset. They can't do anything about it. They're tied up or whatever you do with horses. I guess you don't tie them up, but they're in their things.
Yeah, they're
Paddocks.
in the stables.
Stables.
Paddocks.
Paddock.
Yeah.
It's making noise back. Oh, it's rain. Cool. Sorry.
Nice.
There's rain on the window. I know.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
talking this whole time about like this version really gives the idea of like rain and what rain is like, and then as soon as I hear rain I'm like, what the fuck is that?
What is this?
There's rain on the window right now. That's what's happening. All
Right
right.
on.
So I
So
don't know
that's
what
our
I'm
final
talking about.
verdict.
Is the takeaway from this.
There you go. Take everything we say with a pile of salt. Our final verdicts, if you got a similar opinion, different opinion, or want to talk to us about a version we didn't talk about, hit us up on Twitter, #CoverMePod, @JakeTheCressy, @SomeAlexWiseGuy. Hit us up at our email address, covermepod@gmail.com. Be sure to rate and review us. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. It's called Google Podcasts, I guess. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, your favorite podcasting app. Usually we have a bonus segment, but again, I've forgotten to prepare one.
I feel like I
Alex.
should prepare a bonus segment one of these days.
I mean, I wouldn't fucking mind
It's
it.
been 2 years. I've probably said that before too. I still haven't done it.
Yeah, it's you also once intended to edit an episode.
I
and-
did. I still have that, obviously, because it's on a USB stick. Didn't happen either.
Yeah. Did not happen. That's okay, but yeah. Here's my question for you, Alex. I know this is something I should say for a video game episode, but I just thought of the fact that they're remastering Tony Hawk. And so the question is, what's the best licensed music video game soundtrack you've encountered?
Rock Band's cheating, yeah?
No, I guess that's fair because you could also pick Guitar Hero. So I would say Rock Band is allowed, but you have to specify which iteration and DLC is not included.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of what other licensed video game music there is.
So it's a
Um,
lot of like board games. So if
Yeah.
I mean like skateboard / snowboarding.
And I guess,
so like
yeah, sorry.
1080 Avalanche. Grand Theft Auto or Saints Row also has licensed music
That's
in
true.
it.
That's true. There's also like most sports titles gonna have some licensed songs on there. I remember listening in NHL 2004 to like, oh, Ellen, what can I do?
Oh yeah, by
by
God.
Gob. That was on that soundtrack. But I think I gotta say, for me, the one I've spent the most time with, I think I have to say, and now I'm like going between two, which one did I like more? I think I ultimately have to say Fallout New Vegas for
There's
the-
a good choice.
for the radio songs, because I really enjoyed listening to those. But I almost wonder if Fallout 4 is a better choice because it kind of has all the songs from Fallout 3 and then a couple more. But you know, that's what I'm going for. I'm gonna stick with what I said because that's easier.
Yeah, that's a solid one. And like that that soundtrack of licensed music has been used for 3 individual Fallout games with some variations. Like New Vegas gets a little more of these old country tunes.
Actually, does New Vegas have a totally different set of songs? I don't
Is
think
it
it.
totally
I don't think it
different?
repeats any from 3. I
You
could
might be right,
I didn't
Alex.
think it did. But yeah,
I think I do like that one more.
yeah, because I think the other thing about New Vegas, as compared to 3, just in terms of the licensed songs, is that they have that like Western feel and also that kind of like Vegas feel. So it sort of
Mhm.
reinforces it in that way, as well as just being like the 50s thing. So I think that lends its strength, and I'm gonna
Yeah, I think
say
you're
that.
right. It really emphasizes the setting of New Vegas in
Yeah,
particular.
you really get that like cowboy feeling. But that's sort of like
Mhm.
the I guess I'm gonna say Rhinestone Cowboy. Like it's not cowboy. It's like fake, but it's like this show thing that just like really personifies that like Las Vegas desert feeling.
Yeah. That's a fucking good choice, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with something maybe unexpected. Brutal Legend.
Oh, there's another good one.
Yeah, great heavy metal / hard rock soundtrack. I used to just play the game and just drive around in that fucking car and just listen to metal tunes for like an hour or so.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a time in my life when I wanted to play more video games, but was busy with school.
Yeah.
Also,
What year
the
did Brutal Legend come out?
that would have been 2010, 2011.
2010. Oh, I guess yeah. You were doing more more demanding
Extracurricular
schooling than
activities.
I was. Yeah.
I also that was the first time that video game prices went up.
Right.
They're even higher now.
Ugh.
Canada. Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but I wanted to complain about that.
Yeah. But yeah, totally like a strong soundtrack. You get fucking Judas Priest on there. So you get a lot of like big name ones and then some that are less familiar to people like me who aren't necessarily metalheads. Yeah, it exposed me to a lot of good songs. And then they have their own original Girlfriend by Cabbage Boy, which is this just awful song. A friend. It's like it's built to be like cringy pop, but it's also like catchy. So it's funny. Not then that game is weird. I don't even know if it's necessarily a good video game at the end of the day, but it's certainly an experience and a pretty good soundtrack.
Yeah, it's worth checking
If
out.
you guys got a video game soundtrack that of licensed music that you think's the greatest, hit us up. #licensed soundtrack from a video game.
We gotta do something shorter. Gotta be shorter than that. It's like half a tweet.
#LSTFVG.
G. Now we have to look that up.
And that's been our bonus segment. And as we always say on Cover Me. Oh, God. Cover Me, the podcast you find on your favorite podcasting app. Should I say the podcast you find in the secondhand store? Let's try that again. Cover Me, the podcast you find in a secondhand store. That's better.
With a co-host you also find in a secondhand store.
Secondhand store. That's where you find it. Alex is like, hey, you heard of this? Huh?
That's where I tell people about this, and nowhere else.
Nowhere else. All right.